Brink was one of the more influential Disney Channel original movies I'd seen in my childhood. Sure, Gotta Kick It Up made me want to be a cheerleader, but I didn't end up joining any squad. Phantom of the Megaplex made me want to work in a movie theater, but none of them would hire me. But Brink made me want to skate, and skate I did. I rollerbladed, I roller skated, I skateboarded, I longboarded. As long as it was on wheels, I was into it. Except for bikes, I did not learn how to ride one of those until very late in life. It was yesterday. I like to revisit things I liked in my childhood, like movies or books or TV shows or songs, and I like to see if my affinity for the thing, whatever it may be, has more to do with nostalgia than the thing itself. Sure, Courage the Cowardly Dog was my favorite cartoon once upon a time, but does it still hold up? Yes, it does. That show is a fucking masterpiece. Brink had always meant a lot to me, because it influenced me to skate, which influenced plenty of other things in my life, like who I befriended, where I hung out, etc. So watching Brink again earlier this year made me a little nervous. It would suck if this movie turned out to be yet another result of me romanticizing the past. As it turns out, the movie, fortunately, is still pretty solid. But as I was watching it, it wasn't the fact that Sam Horrigan was doing most of his stunts that impressed me. Instead, it was the stunning realization that, holy shit, is this sort of about how passions, hobbies, and leisure activities get commodified under capitalism? Am I reaching? Maybe, but I need a good stretch. Brink is a very loose adaptation / remix of the story Hans Brinker or The Silver Skates by Mary Mapes Dodge. It's a sweeping tale about an impoverished family. The two children, Hans and Gretel, love skating, but they can't afford to buy real ones. Hans crafts makeshift skates for them out of wood, which are painful, but at least it gives them the chance to skate. An accident at work has left the patriarch of the family ill and unable to work, leaving Dame Brinker to do what little she can to scrounge together scraps and pennies for her children. At the time of writing this, Dodge's own husband had passed away, leaving her to provide for her own two children in the only way she knew how: writing stories, which had always been a passion of hers, a fond hobby. When we're introduced to this story and to these characters, Hans is 15 years old and has decided he must do whatever he can to help his mother. He takes on different jobs and hard labor. His expert woodwork, a hobby that he used to make himself and his younger sister skates, essentially becomes a side hustle. Hans Brinker, or The Silver Skates, is very much a story about poverty and the effects it has on a family, particularly on children. Hans and Gretel are well behaved and ever obedient to their mother, and they do what they can to help her. When the story begins, the two siblings are out skating on the ice when their mother calls them back to the house, and even though they want to skate a little while longer, they return to their mother instantly because they know that she needs them. They are kept home from school because their mother needs their assistance in caring for their father. They have to grow up faster than any other children their age. Ice skating is the last shred of childhood playtime they have left, and they don't even have the luxury of reveling in it. Once it's time to be an adult, it's time to be an adult. How the story plays out here has more to do with morality than anything else. The children are given money to buy a real pair of skates, but after finding a doctor who can help their father, they decide to use that money toward his treatment. This good deed is so admired that the doctor decides to help out for free, and the kids get their precious silver skates. While this story is about poverty and how grueling it is, how it ends innocence and childhood, the primary focus is about how the children's good deeds makes their situation better. Brink, the 1998 DCOM, isn't just a modernized retelling of the story, but it's more pointed about the themes it wants to relay. Themes regarding passions and how your love of them can change when money becomes involved. And even more importantly, knowing the difference between what you do and who you are. Do what you love, and you'll never work super fucking hard all the time with no separation or any boundaries, and also take everything extremely personally. The revamped spin-off of Dodge's famous novel sees Andy Brinker taking on the titular role. Everyone calls him Brink. He's 15 years old and he's absolutely nuts about inline skating. He and his friends call themselves soul skaters. Soul skaters skate because they love it. They don't do it for the money, they do it for the love of the sport, and they consider anyone else who uses skating to make money as a sellout. Brink and his friends Jordy, Pete, and Gabriella are still into competing in skating games, and they idolize celebrity skaters who do it for a living. But the thing that takes precedent in their day is simply being able to have fun and figuring out creative ways to do different tricks. I mean, they even get excited about skating all the way to Venice Beach when they miss the early bus. In this newer version, Andy and his little sister aren't like on the brink of starvation. Oh my god, I said it. This version makes the money issues a little bit more quiet. As Brink's friends wait for him at the bus stop, Jordy, a perpetual worrier, agonizes over what might be keeping Brink from arriving on time. He wonders if Daddy Brink's back went out again and they had to rush him to the hospital, an early allusion to the financial problems Brink is having at home, those being that his mother hasn't sold a house in months and his father hasn't been able to work. Brink is aware of these issues, but only vaguely. Also, I'm gonna pause it. I just think Brink is so sweet. I mean, he's always trying to keep people together. He partakes in 3 skating competitions throughout the movie, and every single time someone falls or gets hurt, he stops racing to help them.
Dude, are you okay? Never did have the brains to finish a race and someone was down. Guess not. That's what I was counting on.
Even when he's upset, he turns down advice from his parents in a very polite way. He's just a sweet kid. I love Brink. At school, Brink's rivalry with Val, who just has the loveliest cheekbones, ignites when Val steals Pete's shoes.
You narc on me. I know you're a bunch of wusses.
And the Brink gang retaliates by putting worms in his sandwich. I absolutely love this scene. It still holds up.
Is there a problem, Val?
Their rivalry with Val and his Yellow Bee team. Yellow Bee, what the fuck are they called? X-Blades, Yellow Bee, Jesus Christ. Their rivalry with Val and his X-Blades team is in part because Val is an asshole, and in part because the X-Blades team are a bunch of show-offs who don't seem to love skating unless there's a way they can profit from it, either by winning trophies or winning money. And absolutely everything is a competition to them. After they put worms in Val's sandwich, he says he wants to beat them up, but instead he's like, no, actually, I bet you can't beat me at racing, you wuss. After that race ends abruptly, and Brink is suspended from school for racing on campus, his dad drives him back home and the car breaks down. This is the first time, in the movie at least, that we see Brink picking up on the money troubles, like the fact that this car breaks down and he knows his family can't afford to get it fixed. Later that night, he overhears his family discussing money, how they need money to get Katie's braces, they need money for the bills, obviously, and how dad hasn't gotten back to work and mom still hasn't sold a house. Brink, feeling very guilty about getting suspended and about the car, decides he needs to find a way to make money. It just happens to work that the race he partook in that got him suspended ended with Boomer, a member of the X-Blades, getting injured, so Val is looking for a replacement. He baits Brink by bringing up how much money he makes, and sure enough, Brink shows up but keeps it a secret from his friends. He's not selling out, as they say. He just needs the money to help out his parents, to make their lives easier as best as he can.
How much? What? His X-Blades pay. How much?
But he's not so sure they would understand, or perhaps he's afraid they might talk him out of it. So Brink joins the X-Blades, and on top of that gets another job because his parents don't know he's joined the X-Blades because he went through with it even after they told him no, and he's exhausted. I've seen people say that his schedule isn't that busy, but I feel like people who say that are now in their 20s and 30s and aren't remembering what it was like to be 15 years old, and that, yeah, having 2 jobs and trying to keep up with homework might be a lot for a 15-year-old. Brink has always been a skater. It's his passion. He loves it more than anything. And now that it's become his job too, he finds it even harder to separate himself from it. He's Brink. He's a skater. It's intrinsically tied to his identity, and he doesn't know who he is without it. Add that to making money from it, and naturally Brink starts to feel like who he is, the skater, is the most important thing about him. And making money from who he is, again, the skater, reasserts his identity and his existence. He makes money, he's productive, therefore he is. He quickly realizes the more he gets paid to do the thing he loves, the less he loves it. Everything becomes about how can I make more money, and not about creative risks or just doing it because it feels good. And that's why, well, partly why, he quits the X-Blades. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with making a living doing the thing that you love. The thing is that hustle culture often forces us to turn our leisure time and leisure activities into a way to make money. I'm guilty of that. I love watching movies and writing about them, and I loved doing that before I made this channel. And look at me, I've monetized a passion. That's why I hold on so dearly to making terrible synth music and crocheting socks that no one can wear, because they're the few activities I have left that I haven't turned into a side hustle. It really only becomes an issue when you no longer do anything for the love of it, when absolutely everything you do has a monetary value to it. It's hard to find joy when everything is a job, when there is no leisure, where even in leisure you find yourself thinking about work and money. Brink finds his own version of that. When he quits the X Games, he comes to his friends with a bunch of skating gear and t-shirts. They've been sponsored, but not by a skating company.
You convinced the dog groomer to sponsor us?
Well, actually, I'm kind of the sponsor.
Kinda? Well, you see, I kind of got my pay in advance so I could get you guys some stuff.
It's easy for us to see ourselves as what we do in life. I don't make videos on YouTube. I am a YouTuber. Even the way we get used to saying it tells us that what we do is who we are, and disentangling the two from each other is an everyday battle. Anytime I forget that, I take the time to remind myself of the difference between what I do and who I am. Time to remind myself that some of the things I do can just be things that I do. I don't have to knit and sell a scarf on Etsy if that's not what I want. I can just do it because it gives me peace of mind, and there's no price you can put on peace of mind. And when I don't have the energy to remind myself, I just watch Brink again and he does it for me.